Tonight, I'm Krishna Andavolu. Tonight, we're shaking things up. We have a special hour-long episode about the future of the Republican Party. The view from D.C. is simple. The party is themed, and that theme is Trump. We saw that this week with Liz Cheney's demotion from Republican leadership. But the view from D.C. is also limited. Almost 75 million people voted for former President Trump in 2020, and not a lot of them live in Washington. So truly understanding the future requires a road trip. That's why Michael Moynihan went to Texas, which, like a Republican buffet, has every possible type of conservative. And he went with open ears, but a critical eye, to understand how voters feel about where we've been and where we're going.
They want us to apologize for being prideful about being American. I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud to have my dad being from
that
Texas.
flag. If you don't hug a flag, you are not a real American, folks.
Pride is a big thing.
It's good. That side of pride is good to me. I think it's good to be
You should
proud.
have a pride parade.
No.
Any criticisms of the president?
Can I just stop for a second and say he based his support for the president of the United States on whether or not he thinks the candidate is proud to be an American. That's just bravo. That logic right there. I mean, you can't argue against that logic.
Nothing.
I don't think so.
4 years.
4 years. I don't think I ever came
Not
against
a single thing.
I don't think so.
Oh dear. It's a bit
I-
cultish, isn't it?
It's not cultish. The things I disagree with are things that, he's human. So maybe we don't see eye to eye on all the things,
Yeah.
but the common core thing that he was running on, I believed in.
Is there anything you've changed your mind about in the past 4 years? Any belief that you've had that you changed your mind about?
Yes, I think
What?
it's much more swampy than it was initially thought it was going to be swampy. And I think a lot of it came from his side, his party.
You're kind of saying in a way that the Republicans were actually worse than you thought that they were.
Yeah.
They should have jumped on the Trump train, and they didn't. And I think it's going to affect them.
Wait, hang on. You're saying that it's more swampy now after Trump left the White House. So he said he was going to drain the swamp. He didn't drain the swamp. It got swampier, and yet he's like, I have zero criticisms of Donald Trump. It's a fucking cult, guys. This is a cult.
It's going to affect them in the midterms coming up, and I think it's going to affect some of them on re-election in 2024. I hope it does. I hope they get voted out.
But is the Trump train running out of steam?
I don't think so. I'm still pumped for him. Whatever capacity he can do to make it keep his vision going, I'm behind it 100%. I don't know what that vision is. It said we don't million people that voted for him.
There's agreement
We're
there.
being quiet, going to work, and watching, see what happens, and see what President Trump is going to do next. And I hope he understands that. We're watching. We're waiting.
It's not over. God is in control. He is not done with Donald Trump.
God's
Do you
in
believe that he
control.
lost?
No, I believe that the elections were absolutely rigged.
I've never seen a president have to go through the crap himself.
Donald Trump doesn't run in 2024. Who would you want to be the Republican Party nominee?
If it's not Donald Trump, it's going to be one of the Trumps.
What I would like to see is Trump run for the House of Representatives from Florida in 2022. And get elected, and if the Republicans can take over Congress, then
That'd be
him to
hilarious.
Speaker of the House, and then he can impeach Harris and Biden and get them thrown out, and then he becomes the president again. He's running for 2 years.
Master
That is
plan
the
right
most
here.
convoluted thing I've ever heard in my life. You don't see a Republican Party without Donald Trump.
I don't. I cannot see any other Republican than a Trump running for president.
The Rooftop Republicans is a group of MAGA faithful who meet weekly at a Mexican restaurant in College Station, Texas.
The focus of this group is to concentrate on working from the school board up to the presidency and bringing true conservatism to bear.
Can you imagine if these people infiltrate the school boards and whatnot? Just, ugh.
Hardcore conservatives.
Both coasts look at us as a bunch of backwoods cretin, and we're not. He's a retired judge. I've got a PhD. There's various other people around here who are educated, intelligent, been a lot of places, done a lot of things, and we're tired of being laughed at. You look at the stuff that comes out of Hollywood, and you don't see a central white family or even a minor mixed family. There's 3 queers, 2 lesbians, 13 Martians, and a bunch of...
I missed this film.
Wait, I don't understand the criticism here that he's making. He's just mad because there's more representation for marginalized groups and historically non-visible groups. Is that really what he's mad about? Is that not a snowflakey thing to be upset over? Who cares? Who thinks about that? Like, think about this. If you're watching television and you just discover this brand new show, do you ever think, okay, there's 2 white people on the screen, one of them is a woman, there's one gay person, oh, and then there's one person who is Hispanic. Who thinks about this? These are the folks who claim that they don't like identity politics, but their entire identity is characterized by identity politics. It's just white identity politics, and they don't like that white people are not as visible as they were before. They feel as if they're being replaced by people of color, at least culturally and on television, and this is why they're so mad. It's weird. He's talking about how, oh, well, we're not dumb, we're not stupid. This is a former judge. I have a PhD. Who gives a shit? Having a PhD doesn't mean that you're automatically smart. Okay, I was in a PhD program with a lot of dumb people. Having a PhD in no way is a statement about your intelligence.
Film, but I'm sure it's on Netflix.
That's the central idea of who we are.
So you feel condescended to by the media and just by the culture in general?
He feels condescended to because now when you turn on the television, there's more black people on TV. That is why he feels condescended to? What? How is that condescending? Is it this idea that, oh, well, you know what? Hollywood, they're trying to shove diversity down our throats and, make it seem as if I need it. I don't need it. I have plenty of black friends and gay friends, so I don't want to see them. Yeah, get them away from me. It doesn't make any sense to me. Well, I should say it does make sense, but I'm not going to jump to any conclusions about this individual yet. But I think he's kind of like telling on himself in a way, right? Yeah, Sam says these people are too far gone. I agree with that. Like, if you're offended because of diversity on television, you're not a serious person. Who cares about that? Who cares? Like, it's good to see more gay people on TV. It's good to see a range of people on TV. I think that diversity on television, representation, paves the way for greater understanding of individuals. And sometimes the narratives are a little bit bad and stereotypical, but I mean, you can point to certain television shows and how the cultural impact it had actually did make more people accepted by society. Glee with gay people, for example, and to a degree, Orange is the New Black with trans people because they had a prominent trans character. So what he says here, this is such a weird and bizarre thing. It doesn't make any sense to me. You're offended and you're condescended to because you see a lot of diversity.
Let me do a little experiment here. Give me a sentence. How you feel the media views you.
They think we can't think for ourselves and we need to be told what to do.
And they're laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah.
Making money off of being condescending to you.
We're the competition, and they have to shut us down through any means possible to promote their agenda.
What is their agenda, do you think?
Communism.
I want to just...
They just talked about how smart they were. They just talked about how they don't need to be condescended to. And, they looked down on them. And then when asked, well, what is their agenda? They say communism. I want to kill myself. In Roblox.
Not liberalism, not social democracy.
Not liberalism with progressivism. Progressivism is just another word for communism, and that's what's taken over that part of the world.
Define communism. Like, I hope he asks them to define communism. I bet he couldn't even define liberalism or conservatism. Like, holy shit. Is there a single communist in the mainstream media in America? On MSNBC, Fox News, CNN. Can anyone think of a single prominent communist in the United States of America? I can't think of any. None come to mind. But this is their agenda, guys. It's communism. They use all of these buzzwords that they have no understanding of, and it's just embarrassing. But they're not embarrassed at all.
Like liberalism in the sense of like Kennedy-style liberalism versus Swedish-style social democracy versus Soviet-style communism. I mean,
the manifesto with what they're doing, it's the same.
The Communist Manifesto.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Is that a pretty uniform view here?
Yeah.
One of their
Oh, we're not stupid. but they want communism. Holy shit. Way to completely disprove the point you were trying to make about how we're not stupid, we're not sheep. They think that we can't think for ourselves. You all literally believe that they want communism, the elites in America. Jesus Christ.
Package is divide and conquer. In Marxists, they use language. They use
divide
race,
and conquer. Isn't that what Trump wants to do?
Economics. They use anything that they can find that puts a drag wedge between us.
My son is leaning towards liberal.
How old is he?
26. And when he and I talk about issues and really dive down into them, we agree on almost everything.
You do?
The concern about the elitists versus the people.
You see the enemy as the same thing. What is it that politically divides you and your son?
I think that he's listening more to mainstream media, believing the narrative that we are racist. You were talking about Bernie Sanders, we're talking about unions, we're talking about Trump. What is it about him? And it all boils down to we the people. They don't want to be dismissed. And they want a say-so in what's going on.
On the union issue...
I just have to point out the irony here. She has these conversations with her liberal son about how elites are the issue, so she's kind of circling around the main issue here, right? It's capitalism, it's the oligarchs, it's wealth being hoarded at the top by the top 1/10 of 1%, but yet she supports Donald Trump. Donald Trump is literally part of the issue. He's rich. He's an oligarch, but yet she doesn't like elites. It's just really frustrating to me. And that's not to say that, you shouldn't support a good leftist candidate, if someone emerges who's rich, who's a class traitor. I mean, FDR was basically a class traitor. But what she's saying, she's not supporting someone who's a class traitor. She's supporting Donald Trump, who very much was not a class traitor. He was in favor of trickle-down economics where him and his buddies get lots and lots of tax cuts. And in fact, after he passed his 2017 tax bill, what was the first thing that he did? He went to Mar-a-Lago and told everyone, you all just got a lot richer. As he's pretending that, it's going to enrich working Americans.
Yes. Do Republicans care about spending anymore? A $1.9 trillion spending bill, the biggest in American history adjusted for inflation. Does it bother you guys? I mean, that's kind of to a degree. I finally hear a little bit of dissent here.
Yeah. Well, I would say dissent. He spends money freely, and I'm okay with that on the things that matter. So defense spending, infrastructure, border control, border security, and getting rid of the things that are sucking sounds.
So that's what animates you.
It's okay when Trump blows up the deficit because he's spending money on things that matter. First of all, Joe Biden opted for a bigger defense budget than Donald Trump. Are they going to jump ship and support Joe Biden? Well, of course not, because they're hacks. And that lady claimed, well, it's not about, Republican, Democrat, but it is, though. You have a team, and you love your team, and you love who the team leader is, and that is Donald Trump. And why would you think that defense spending matters? Even if you thought that it mattered, are you perfectly fine with 60% of our discretionary budget going to the military? Is that justifiable in any way, shape, or form when we have people sleeping on the streets in America? When we have people going hungry? This is making my brain hurt. Holy shit. These people have they don't have a coherent political ideology. They operate strictly on the basis of their emotions. And Donald Trump, he really appeals to them at this visceral level. This is not a political ideology. It's just a cult. Yeah, it's anger and it's fear, as Mr. Anderson says. That's exactly what it is.
Now, smaller government, less spending, lower taxes. Mm-hmm. Do you think that there's
But you don't like smaller governments. You don't. You like lots of spending when Republicans are in control, as evidenced by Bush and Donald Trump, and you don't want smaller government. You literally have a party that you support around the country passing bills that legislate the most intimate things. What a woman can do with her body. Whether or not a mother and father with a trans child can get gender-affirming care for them. So you don't believe in small government. You believe in the biggest government imaginable.
Likelihood of getting a sort of across-the-board kind of Trump, Congress of Republicans.
Yes.
So this is just the beginning of the battle to you guys.
Absolutely. Correct.
Who are the elites that need to be knocked off?
Mitt Romney, Mitch McConnell, Schumer.
Okay. How do they hate Mitch McConnell? Because Mitch McConnell was basically the errand boy for Donald Trump. I'm assuming that they liked Mitch McConnell so long as he was doing what Donald Trump wanted. But the second that Mitch McConnell turned on this whole election narrative, the second Mitch McConnell said, actually, the winners are Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, like that day is when Mitch McConnell was trending on Twitter. I think that's probably the turning point for them. But it's like Mitch McConnell is your guy based on what you said, what little you said that I could deduce from your weird, incoherent worldview.
Somebody finally named a Democrat. Schumer. Those are all Republicans.
Anyone who's been up there for more than 10 years is corrupt.
Sometimes you've got to draw that line in the sand. The Republican elite had never drawn that line.
No.
We keep going over, the Democrats keep pulling left. Now's the time that we...
I wish. They talk about Democrats being communists, or they being communists. I guess applying that to the media and Democratic Party elites and elites more broadly speaking. I mean, Jesus Christ, if half the things that they thought about the Democratic Party were true, the country would be in such better shape than it is right now, I swear to God.
People need to stand up for our Constitution. We're losing our rights.
So you don't see it.
What rights are we losing? Because we are losing rights. She's correct. Can she cite a single right that we're losing? A single one. Is she going to cite how the Patriot Act has basically gutted the Fourth Amendment? Is she going to cite how BDS laws restrict our First Amendment rights to protest? Voting rights are being stripped away. I mean, yeah, we're losing our rights. But she's like a lot of Americans that just like say things. Like, I support freedom and small government. But she doesn't actually know what that means. Like, if you pressed her on this, she would have no idea what rights we're losing.
Any room for compromise?
Not anymore. I mean, we have got to stand up. We have compromised today.
This group is about no compromise politics.
So, yeah, basically it's about what I expected. I've watched so many of these videos with Trump supporters, and they all say the same thing, which is not much. It's a lot of words. It's a lot of virtue signaling, buzzwords such as communism, the media, elites, but there's never a coherent ideology. Like, the lowest common denominator for all these people, it's just Donald Trump. That's the one link that ties all of them together. But they don't actually ground their political ideology in any coherent school of thought. It's so weird. It's reactionary. It's emotional. And this is why the country is so fucked, because people like this, they think that they're informed, but they're reactionaries. They're overly emotional children who react to things that they think are icky or bad, namely trans people, gay people, people of color. That's literally all that their politics are. I mean, they said it at the very beginning. He's really upset. Who is it? The PhD guy. He's really upset because now when you turn on the television, you don't just see white people anymore. And that's so bad. Like, he's so triggered by that. He wants it to go back to a time when you turn on the TV and you just see white people. Hey, buddy, newsflash. You're what? Like 75, 85 years old, 95 years old, possibly 120 years old. You don't have much time left, and you still, most of the time, see white people on TV. Is it really that bad? Like, what are you watching to where you see all of these people of color and LGBTQ plus people? What channel are you watching? I'd like to watch that channel. Certainly it's improved. I think that most people will admit that, but you still see mostly white people on television, I think, overall, generally speaking. So for as long as you're going to be alive, things aren't going to change that much. I mean, your generation is making sure we don't change anything, at least when it comes to climate change, when it comes to trans rights. So because of you, things won't change. So you've won. You've gotten what you wanted. I mean, these people, they support the economic agenda of the Republican Party, hence why they vote for them. And so they won. We live in a late-stage capitalist society. They got the dystopian world that they wanted. We don't have socialism. We barely have social democracy in the United States, and whatever we have, it's always under threat to be privatized. So they won. So what more do they want? Well, what little progress we've made, that's too much for them. Seeing people of color on television, that's a bridge too far because they like seeing white people on television. That's literally the totality of their politics. That's basically it. It's racism. And this isn't the traditional racism of like, oh, well, I think that, non-white people are inferior. This is the racism of, I'm the victim, I'm being oppressed. The equality that I see basically spells doom for me. People getting equal rights, me not being at the tippy top of the social hierarchy, that feels like oppression to me. I don't want to be equal to my peers. I want to be above my peers. And that's basically it. So I don't know what else to say. I think that this speaks for itself. These people, their entire worldview, what they base their politics on, is incoherent. And I think that that's obvious.
Beautiful, beautiful, I will eat your ass. Beautiful, gay, beautiful. Tremendous, 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 tremendous.